If you're a beginner editor and you want to make videos like Iman Gadzhi, watch till the end of this 4-part series because I'll show you exactly how to create this animation.
It does not matter if the US dollar collapses. It doesn't matter if there's a war. It doesn't matter if there's a recession.
Each episode will cover a different animation from beginner to advanced, starting with this super simple card effect. First, grab a Fusion comp, drag it into your timeline, and then head over to Fusion. Start by bringing in a background node, connecting it to your media out and setting the alpha to 0. Next, we'll make the shape of the card. Bring in another background node, connect it to the first background's output, which will create a merge node. Bring in a rectangle mask, connect it to our new background, and adjust the height and width until you have something like this. Now bump up the corner radius to smooth out those corners so we have a nice clean look. Now to make the outline of the card, bring in another background node, connect it to our merge 1 output, set the color type to gradient and the black to a dark grey. Now adjust the start and end points so the dark grey is in the top left and the white is in the bottom right. To turn this into an outline, make a copy of our first rectangle mask and press Ctrl-Shift-V to make an instant copy. This means if we make changes to one rectangle, it'll affect the other one as well, so we don't have to animate both separately. After connecting it to our third background, right-click on Solid and Border Width and select De-Instance. Now we can change these two settings without affecting our card rectangle. Now uncheck Solid and increase the border width to about 0.003. I'm also going to turn off Checker Underlay so you can see everything a little better. Now as you can see, if you change the height settings of one rectangle, it'll affect the card and the outline together. Now for the text at the top of the card, bring in a text node, connect it to our last merge output. And for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to copy the text exactly from Iman's video, but feel free to type whatever you want. Now change the font to something clean and simple. I'm using Poppins, which you can download for free off Google Fonts. I'm going to decrease the size just a little bit and now select our text node and use the handles in the viewer to position the text at the top of the card. To make the design in the middle of the card, bring in a background node, connect it to the merge 3 output, set the color type to gradient, and once again the black to a dark grey. Now to make the line, bring in a polygon mask and connect it to our new background. So shift space to bring up our tool menu, add a grid node, and holding shift drag it over our node tree. Set the major line spacing to 0 and change the color to a darker grey so it's not in our way. With our polygon node selected, draw our line by adding 2 points along our reference line, and now you can delete the grid. Select the polygon node and increase the border width to about 0.003 or whatever the thickness of our outline is. Now adjust the start and end points of our gradient so we have a nice transition from grey to white. I want the line to be a bit more central, so I'm using the handles in the viewer to position it down a bit. Use the position and length parameters to make the line longer or shorter. For the circle, bring in a background node, connect it to the merge 4 output, change the color to white. Bring in an ellipse mask, connect it to our new background. Now adjust the size by either holding on the corners and dragging, or right-clicking width, selecting expression and parenting it to our height value. Now when we change the height, it keeps the width to proportion. Uncheck solid and increase the border width so it's similar to our line. Now select the ellipse node to bring up the position handles and move it so it's central to our line. Now make a copy of our ellipse node, paste it below our polygon branch, connect it to the merge node, and check invert and solid. This will mask out our line. Now we'll add the $sign. Bring in a text node, connect it to the last merge, type out your text, and change your font. Once again, I'm using Poppins. Now we'll adjust the $sign so it's directly in the center of our circle. Next we'll create the number slider. We're going to do this in 3D space, but don't panic, I'll show you exactly how to do it. Anytime you're working in 3D space, you generally need 4 nodes: an image plane, a 3D merge, a camera 3D, and a renderer 3D. The image plane is what you connect your 2D input into. For instance, this 2D card we just made can be put on an image plane that can then be transformed in 3D space. A camera 3D is used to animate the view in which you're seeing the animation. All of these need to be connected into a single merge 3D that will then connect into a 3D renderer. A 3D renderer simply takes everything we have done in 3D and converts it back to 2D. In this case, we don't want our text to be on a flat 2D plane. We're going to put our text on a 3D cylinder. That way it gives the subtle effect that the numbers are on a spinning wheel rather than just a straight line. So you can delete the image plane and the camera because we won't be needing either of these today. So connect our render 3D into our main node tree through a merge, and then bring in a text node and a shape 3D. Connect the text to the shape 3D and the shape 3D to the merge 3D. Now change the shape to a cylinder, and now type out your text. If you're following along with me, write out the numbers 13 to 18 with a single space between each number. Increase the base subdivisions of our cylinder, which will make it as smooth as possible, and adjust the Y rotation of our cylinder so the numbers are at the center of the card. Now change the height and radius of the cylinder until you're happy with how the numbers look, and change the font. This time I'm using Montserrat, which you can also download for free off Google Fonts. Now position the numbers at the bottom of the card, and I'm also going to decrease the size. Now to mask out our numbers, bring in a rectangle node, connect it to our merge 6, and adjust it so the other numbers are just out of frame like I have here. Now increase the soft edge so you have a nice fade out. Now there's a slight problem. As you can see, when we rotate our numbers all the way around, you can see the numbers in the back. To fix this, bring in an image plane, connect it to our merge 3D, change the color of the image plane to whatever the color of our card is, in this case black, and with our merge 3D in our left viewer, adjust it so only the front 3 numbers are in front of the image plane. Now when we animate our numbers, the numbers we don't want to be seen will be hidden by the image plane. Congratulations, you've made all the components for this animation. Now it's time to make the animation itself. Head to about frame 18 and set a keyframe on our rectangle's height. Now go to the first frame and bring that all the way to 0. As you can see, our text and everything else is just left floating there. To fix this, head to each component's merge node and set the operator to a top. Now as you can see, everything animates with our rectangle. So far the animation looks pretty ordinary, so we're going to smooth it out. Select our rectangle node, open up the spline menu, make sure show only selected tool is checked, check the height box, click zoom to fit. Now highlight both points, press S on your keyboard to smooth the animation, T to bring up the ease in and ease out controls, and set them both to about 70. Let's add some motion blur. Head into the rectangle settings, check motion blur, change the quality to 8 and the shutter angle to about 200. We also want our rectangle to fade in as it comes into frame. So head to about frame 7, set a keyframe on level, now head to the first frame and bring the level all the way to 0. It should look something like this so far. Now to animate our number slider. Go to a couple frames before our last rectangle keyframe, and in the shape transform settings, adjust the Y rotation until our numbers are all the way to the start, set a keyframe, and go forward about 40 to 50 frames. Now adjust the Y rotation until our final number is center frame. With shape 3D selected, go into our spline menu, select both keyframes, and press S to smooth them out. Adjust the ease in to about 85 and the ease out to about 70. Time to add some motion blur to our numbers. Unfortunately, the shape transform settings doesn't have it built in, so we'll have to do it manually. To do this, add some directional blur, shift drag to bring it into our node tree. Now mask it out with a rectangle so only the numbers are in frame. Increase the soft edge just a touch. Change the blur type to stylized. The blur angle to 180 degrees. Now select our shape 3D and directional blur. Open up the spline menu. Check Y rotation and set the playhead to about 10 frames after our first keyframe. With blur strength set to 0, set a keyframe. Now go to about 10 frames before the last shape transform keyframe and set another keyframe on blur strength. Now move the playhead to when our shape is spinning the fastest, which is represented on the graph by the steepest point. Add a point to our blur strength and holding shift, drag it up until you're happy with the amount of blur. Now uncheck Y rotation and select all the blur strength keyframes and press S to smooth them out. Now one final touch is to roughen the edges of our animation, which is a staple in Iman's videos. Unlike After Effects, Davinci unfortunately doesn't have a native roughen edges effect, but I created one myself, so let me know if you want a tutorial on how to do that. And there you have it, a super simple but really clean card animation that you can use to elevate your videos. If you found this helpful, be sure to check out my next video where I cover a slightly harder animation. Thanks for watching.
Go buy assets. Go buy assets and go buy good quality things.